Hey, this is Heidi Dawson. If you love all things health and wellness and style of any kind, hang out here with me each week. I'm obsessed with never-ending improvement, and it's all in an effort to help each one of us live a wildly successful lifestyle. Subscribe today so you don't miss a thing. Hi, guys. Welcome to episode 635 of the Wildly Successful Lifestyle Podcast. I'm Heidi, and I gotta say, it feels pretty good to be with you today. If you're new, nice to meet you. And if we've been hanging out together for a while, you know we're going to figure out a little something good about ourselves today. And I also hope that you know how grateful I am for you. I mean, we're making the world better by being the best version of us. And if you've been listening, you know that starts in your head. It starts with the thoughts we have about anything. And that's why it's so good to remember to make sure we know what's going on in our head. So thank you for listening and sharing and giving me a 5-star review. If you're loving the episodes, it means a lot to me. All right. So the other day, I was driving the back way through my neighborhood, and you know those winding streets with big trees, and there's usually kids playing outside if it's a certain time of day, which it was. I was heading to an early dinner with a friend. It was about 4:45, and so it was still light out. It was kind of that golden afternoon glow, just perfect, like it's just almost like dusk. And so I pull up to one of those little intersections, and there's 5 to 6 adorable little kids, boys and girls, probably 7 or 8 years old. And they're standing there and they're pumping their arms up and down, you know, like they're trying to signal. But you remember how we used to do signaling big rigs on the highway for them to honk? Well, that is what they were doing. And they're standing there, they're grinning, and their eyes are wide with hope, and they're just begging every car to give them that honk. So the 2 cars in front of me, I did not hear them honk. And so I was like, what's going on? Why would they not do that? They just kind of rolled through. So I just thought, okay, well, then I came up to the stop sign, and one of the little girls actually locked eyes with me, and she was like, come on. She was actually doing it like, honk, please. So I wave a big wave and I lay on the horn. And oh my gosh, you should have seen them. They absolutely erupted. They were jumping up and down, hands in the air, like high-fiving, squealing with just unfiltered delight. And they had the biggest smiles. It was like they'd won the lottery. And as I drove off, I couldn't help but sort of laugh to myself and say, well, that was an easy little win. And I mean, it basically made their day in 2 seconds. And honestly, it sort of made mine too. It was kind of a little warm, fuzzy feeling that stuck with me all the way to dinner. And that's kind of what got me thinking about this topic, was how bringing joy to other people can be sort of the sneaky, surefire way to bring joy right back to yourself. It's like the boomerang effect. I mean, you toss out a little kindness and it circles back and kind of hits you square in the feels. And it doesn't have to be a grand gesture or trying to save the world. It can be those tiny little effortless wins that add up, just like that honk did for those kids. You know, we've all been there though, rushing through our days with our heads down and missing the opportunities to light someone else up. But when you do, it's magical for you and the other person. You know, that moment with those kids reminded me how a lot of times it's really the smallest things that make people happy. I'll give you an example. We have a couple neighbors, and they are sweet. They're in their 80s, and they're just the nicest people. They've been our neighbors for a very long time. Well, during the snowstorm recently, you guys remember that mess, right? Well, she fell, not even in the snow. She was actually bringing groceries into her house, but she fell and broke her back. I mean, just terrible. So she's 82, and she's been in the hospital and then rehab for 3 weeks now. And her husband, who's 84, has been holding down the fort solo. He's been handling the dogs. She normally handles the dogs and trying to manage meals. And he doesn't cook, so not at all. So when we went and visited her in the rehab, she told us that her poor husband was living off lean cuisines. And the vision of that just broke my heart. Now, he's a tough old bird, so he wouldn't want us to feel too sorry for him, which I love about him and is also very inspiring to me. But even tough old birds appreciate kindness. So the other night, Eric and I had grilled out and we had leftover chicken thighs and wings and veggies and baked beans, you know, the works. So we plated them up and we put them in a container and we dropped them off on his porch and we sent him a text letting him know that it was coming and to get it off the porch. And the next thing we know, we get a card on our front door saying, "Thank you," from him and his dog. I hope that means he shared. But, you know, it felt good to do that. You know, and when we visited his wife in rehab, we reminded her when we were there at the same time that if they need anything to please let us know. And she actually got tears in her eyes and said, "Thank you." It felt so good to help them in any way that we could. I know that they would do the same for us too. So besides bringing them a little bit of joy, we felt more connected. It's like in helping them, we were also filling our cup as well. And you know, isn't that how it works though? Like, why does sprinkling joy on others bounce back so hard like a boomerang? I think it's because we are wired for connection. And in this fast-paced world with, you know, scrolling on social media all the time or a to-do list that never end, we forget how it feels to just be human with each other. Like psychologists talk about this all the time. And there's even research on what's called helper's high, that rush of endorphins you get from an act of kindness. It's like your brain's way of saying, yes, do more of that. And that's contagious. You know, those kids at the intersection, they probably went home buzzing, just so excited, telling their parents about the lady who laid on her horn. And my neighbors, I know they'll pay it forward next time someone needs it. She's really good about that anyway. She's always making things for us. And as a little side note, those two, our neighbors, they're, like I said, both of them are actually really tough old birds. They like to take care of themselves and don't want to be seen as needing too much help. And I get it. But this is a good reminder that allowing other people to help is a gift to them as well. It feels really good to help. So sometimes let them give that gift. It feels good all the way around. I mean, we all have those days when joy feels like it's 10 miles or 100 miles away. You know, you feel stressed or overwhelmed, maybe even a little grumpy, and the last thing you want to do is go out of your way for someone else. But if you flip the script, sometimes, what if that's exactly the move you need to make? I mean, you can start small, like just tiny, like smiling at a stranger or letting someone merge in traffic without the eye roll. Or maybe if you're feeling really bold, bake cookies for people at the office. I would make you guys listeners if I could beam them through the airwaves. I really would. But I've really been making a concerted effort to go a little out of my way for someone intentionally. I try to do it every day, and it really has shifted things, even if it's just a text. And it's not about being perfect or saintly. It's about realizing that joy isn't something you chase alone. It's a team sport. And sometimes we think we have to wait for the perfect moment or the day when we're feeling amazing to do it. But a lot of times it's those days when you really are feeling down, or maybe you just want to feel seen, that making someone else feel seen fills that hole in just the right way. And I've often heard, give the love you wish you had. And I've seen that with my big sister, who has not had an easy time in the last few years. She lost her husband. She had a stroke before that, and she lives alone, and that can be really hard and really lonely. And I remember recently I was talking to her on the phone, and she was having a bit of a rough day. And I reminded her how she's gotten herself out of those before, which was by lifting someone else's spirits. Well, later that day, she told me that she was taking lunch to a lady who isn't able to leave her house and had just had surgery. And she called me after, and after she took her lunch and said, you know, I really do feel a lot better. And in fact, that's how we came about doing that luncheon, is that felt so good to her to do something nice for someone else that she decided to host a luncheon for my cousin who was in town. Literally, that made everyone's day. We will be talking about that day for a while because it really did bring so much joy to everyone that was there. You see what I mean? It's like a boomerang. So here's my challenge to you this week. Hunt for those easy wins. Look for the kids waving for a honk, or the neighbor who could use a meal, or maybe the friend who just needs a check-in. You can kind of make it a game and track how it makes you feel. Because the truth is, bringing joy to others isn't just nice. It's actually pretty smart self-care. We are all in this together, and I don't know about you, but it feels really good to know that. Share this with someone who has lifted your spirits lately. I love you guys. I'll talk to you in a few days. Don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends, because we're just going to keep going bigger and better places together, and I love that about us. Talk to you in a few days.